Very good. And I was going to mention about the Improvest, and I was just thinking that, of course, I believe Brazil and Australia are probably the places that use it the most. Any any thoughts there? Because of course in the US, I think is mostly, you hear a few different stories, right? How to process it, but also mostly probably the perception of the consumer. What are your thoughts there? Any advice on that arena?
It's interesting about consumer perceptions, because sometimes those perceptions are simply there to provide leverage around price, or an easy path to that market. And with less pigs in Asia, the acceptance of male pigs that have been Improvac is increasing. So, because they're more interested in having access to the pork.
Right.
But look, Improvac, or the whole concept of vaccinating against gonadotrophin, really, is a very effective concept. It works very, very well, and it significantly reduces the incidence of boar taint. And from a welfare perspective, and from a cost of production perspective in Australia, castration is out of the question. That is not an option, whatever size male pig we produce. So a product like Improvac is very much, and it's an important part of our production system. And the markets in Australia and New Zealand are certainly very comfortable accepting male pigs that have been Improvac into their retail markets. So that's very positive. Where there's a concern or something that we need to manage is obviously the more vaccinations, the more chance there is of a broken needle or an abscess. So the procedures around needle management, around hygiene and abscess management have to be very tightly controlled, because the last thing we ever want to do is to have an undetected broken needle in a product. So in any form of reduction in antibiotic use, more judicious use of antibiotics, we're going to see more vaccinations. So it's not something that's going to diminish. It's only going to increase unless we come up with better ways to vaccinate. So for me today, the biggest thing that we could do to improve the use of a product like Improvac is to have better detection systems for needles and abscesses in carcasses. And to be blunt, all the work we do on eating quality of pork is second if we can't detect basic contaminants that might exist through the process of producing that pork. And there are really no detectable needles that can be found without an X-ray, and it's very difficult to detect abscesses prior to a carcass going into a boning room. So these are technologies I'd love to see developed rapidly.